Hi everybody, today I want to talk about how to actually increase your level of consciousness and how to actually become more present with yourself. Okay, so I realized that yes, being free is my birthright, and the moment that I realize my freedom is the moment that I realize my power. The moment that we actually realize our freedom is the moment that we realize our power. Okay, so the first secret that I realized in actually becoming free and actually increasing my level of consciousness is to actually focus on my inner world. Okay, so I realized that there is power within our inner worlds, there is power within ourselves, and the more that we actually enter a meditative state, the more that we enter a state where we actually accept ourselves, the more that we enter a state where we actually accept everything about ourselves, even our flaws, even our imperfections, is the more that we actually increase our level of consciousness. Okay, so the first thing to realize in order to actually increase your level of consciousness is to realize that yes, you are already free. Okay, being free is your birthright. Okay, the more that I express myself from the inside out, the more that I accept myself from the inside out, the more I give myself the freedom to be myself, the more I increase my level of consciousness. Okay, so also realize that this space-time reality is actually a game. From my perspective, it is a simulation where our higher selves are actually channeling the energy through us in order for us to actually build the life that we want. Okay, the more aware I become of myself, the more aware I become of my thought patterns, the more aware I become of my fears, the more aware I become of my imperfections, the more I actually learn how to alchemize these things within my own level of consciousness. So I realized that in order to actually increase my level of consciousness, I must actually enter a flow state where I actually express myself the way that I want to express myself. Okay, I realized that also self-love is a good tool in order to actually increase your level of consciousness. Okay, self-love actually gives me the opportunity to forgive myself, to forgive my past, and actually enter a trance state, a flow state where I actually build the life that I want from the inside out. Okay, consciousness is something that we are all compatible to. So consciousness is something that runs our energy centers. Consciousness is something that runs our energy field. Okay, so the more that we actually increase this energy field, the more conscious we actually become. Okay, they say that we have a multidimensional universe inside of our own brain center. So the more that we actually learn how to awaken ourselves from this space-time reality, from this illusion, because the world is an illusion in a way, and the more that we actually accept this quantum leap, this quantum perspective of where we are actually increasing our perception, our mental strength, our physical strength, our spiritual strength, the more that we actually increase our level of consciousness. Okay, so also, if I actually want to increase my level of consciousness, I must start beginning how to actually trust every process within my life. Okay, so I realized that yes, sometimes it's not perfect and sometimes it's not happening the way that I want it to happen, but what I can actually do is to actually shift the attention from the outer world into my infinite inner world, and the more that I accept what is happening within myself, the more that I get detached from what is happening outside of myself, is the more that I realize that I can actually enter a neutral space of consciousness where I am actually building from the inside out. Okay, so realize, guys, that yes, you are already free, and being free is your birthright, and the more that you actually learn how to alchemize these processes, the more that you actually learn how to trust yourself, the more that you actually learn how to love yourself, is the more that you will actually increase your levels of consciousness. Okay, so I realized that yes, if I actually learn how to open my heart to love, if I open my heart to a meditative state in each moment, if I open my heart to my experience, if I open my heart to everything that is happening around me, the more that I actually increase my level of consciousness. Okay, I also realized that if I trust the way that the universe actually works through me, the more that I trust the universe actually works as me, the more that I can actually build myself with this level of consciousness. Okay, so the more aware I become, the more that I learn to actually observe my processes, the more that I actually learn how to observe my patterns, the more conscious I become. And the more conscious I become, the happier I am. Okay, the more conscious you become, the happier you are. Okay, so I realized that yes, it's not perfect, and whatever we are experiencing, we have to realize that it's not always the way that we want it to be, but it is the way that the universe actually chooses it to be. Okay, so I realized that yes, everything that is happening is actually happening with divine timing, with divine purpose. And the more that we actually attune ourselves to this trust where we are actually trusting the divine timing, the more that we actually trust life. And the more that you actually trust life, the more that you actually honor life. Okay, so realize, guys, that yes, you are already free. And if you learn how to actually forgive yourself for everything, if you learn to actually enter a flow state, a state where you are actually opening yourself to all kind of experiences, the more that you don't care what other people think of you, the more that you will actually increase your level of consciousness. Okay, so I also realized that being grateful for whatever I have right here, right now, is a good key, a good tool for me to actually open myself to the experience of life. The more that I open myself to the experience of life, the more that I actually increase my level of consciousness. And I also realize that sometimes it's not easy, and sometimes it's challenging, but the more that I actually open myself to everything in my life, to every challenge, the more that I am actually building myself. Okay, so realize that raising your level of consciousness is not easy, but the more that you actually love yourself in the process, the higher is the chance that you will actually increase your level of happiness. Okay, so love yourself in the process, no matter what. Learn to actually love and build yourself. I also realized that in order to actually increase my level of consciousness, I actually must be passionate about something, and I must focus on my passion in order for me to actually build myself. Okay, I also realized that it's about facing negative emotions as well. It's about looking at my shadow self and actually accept my shadow self, my not perfect self, my lower self, because there is also a teacher in my lower self. Okay, so I realized that the higher self, my source energy, and my lower self, they are both teachers. Okay, so they are both teachers. And the more that I actually learn how to accept my flaws, how to laugh at my imperfections, the more that I learn how to actually embrace life in a new way. Okay, the more that I become free, the more that I become myself, the more that I detach myself from the things that I don't really want. Okay, so I realized that yes, being free is my birthright, and the more that I actually let this life happen through me and as me, the more that I realize that yes, consciousness is something that represents evolution, expansion, and creativity. Okay, so the more creative you become with yourself, the more that you actually learn how to alchemize certain things within your life, the freer you actually become to the idea of love. Okay, so love yourself, because I believe that love is all there is. And the moment that we actually learn how to forgive ourselves, we realize that yes, there is power in our freedom, there is power in our free will, there is power within ourselves. Okay, so realize, guys, that yes, keeping it simple and actually sharing your gifts with the world is something that you actually need in order for you to increase your level of consciousness. Okay, so realize that yes, you are already free to actually do whatever you want to do, but also realize that there may be a challenge attached to this. Okay, so the challenge from my perspective is to actually love myself no matter what. No matter what, yes, I do love myself, and I do love life itself, because life is a gift. And I realized that the harder it gets sometimes, the bigger the chance for us is to actually increase our patterns, our levels of consciousness, okay? So realize that yes, even if it gets hard, realize that you do have a purpose, and the more that you actually learn how to alchemize certain things, the freer you are in order for you to actually build your life purpose. And yes, sometimes it's not easy, but it will get easy the more that we actually accept ourselves, the more that we actually open our hearts to the experience of life. So love yourself and realize that there is power within your energy centers, there is power within your heart, and the more that you actually operate from the heart, the more that you will actually increase your levels of consciousness. It's also about beliefs, okay? What are your beliefs about yourself? What is your perception towards this life? What are your dreams? What is the perception that you have towards your dreams? What is the willpower that you have towards your dreams, okay? So realize that yes, everything matters in this life and everything doesn't matter at the same time, okay? So realize that there is a duality, and the more that you actually learn how to change this duality into oneness, the more neutral you become with yourself, the better you become with yourself, okay? Because we are not good or evil, we just simply are. And the moment that I realize this neutrality within myself is the moment that I actually increase my level of consciousness, okay? So realize that yes, your beliefs are important, self-love is important, neutrality is important, detachment is important in order for you to actually increase your level of consciousness, and gratefulness is important, okay? So stay detached and realize that you, with your unique gifts, you have the power to actually influence not only yourself but the world itself, okay? So realize that yes, you are a very powerful spiritual being, and the more that you actually learn how to be yourself and actually share with the world your gifts, the more that you are actually stepping into your purpose, okay? So ask yourself, what is my purpose? What have I come here to do on the planet? And let the answer come from the heart and actually learn how to focus on that, okay? So keep it simple and realize that yes, you do have the power to actually alchemize everything in your life. And this is really beautiful because we are all alchemists. We can all turn everything that is negative into gold, into a pure positive perspective, into pure positivity, okay? So realize that yes, self-love is important, and the more that you actually learn how to relax yourself in the process, the more you learn how to be yourself. I love you guys. This was today's message about how to increase your level of consciousness and realize that yes, you are a very powerful spiritual being, and the more that you are actually focusing on yourself is the more that you will actually expand as yourself and as the world. I love you guys. Feel free to actually subscribe, leave a comment, and let me know what you think, and see you on what is coming up next. This is how to increase your level of consciousness from my perspective, and let me know what your perspective is in how you actually increase your levels of consciousness. I love you guys. Much peace, and boom, boom, boom. I love you.